leaders are so selfish, and they really don't have any plans for the development of the country. Sorry to say, they are just there to take care of their own interest. I mean, it would have been beautiful if we insist that children of the president, children of of current senators, House of Assembly, their children must stay here, and study. If really they are serious people, they are serious individuals, at least for some years for us to get our educational system right, we should all agree and they should be able to pass that bill, because they were never serious and they don't really have the interest of the citizens at heart. That's why they are acting that way. And in any case, the way they take care of their own children over there, their own children are not, likely to be among those who are stranded over there. Yeah, because I can imagine, I mean, as a Senate president, for example, my son is studying in Ukraine. Would I have waited until this time so that my son will now be part of those that they are now begging to be evacuated? They won't. So they would have taken care of their own children in that kind of a situation, and they would have brought them back home. And that is one of the reasons why, they were reluctant, to put, actions in place to rescue those students, and those citizens from Ukraine. It is part of our social. It is part of our political and and social problems. So until we have committed leadership, especially committed political leadership, this country will still be tottering around without direction.
All right, on that note, let me just tell our viewers that you have the opportunity to actually call into the program on this particular issue. And do remember, you have to turn down the audio level of your TV set, or you move away from it, your name and where you're calling from too. All right, let's look at the fact that some of the students were still studying before this happened. Some are first-year students, medicine, some engineering students. Now, if you look at what the government had said at the point of bringing them in, when we saw that video, they were in the plane, and they were saying, as a matter of fact, that some of them will have to continue their education, possibly here or online. They will try as much as possible to liaise with other countries where they may have been, so especially Ukraine. Now, let's look at that fact. The study itself, has it not been hampered? Now, does the government have a kind of preparation for the school system in Nigeria? Because some of them will be subsumed back home. They will have to go through to say, instead of the rigors of saying I'm going back, like the first year student, for instance, they will want to go to the Nigerian university. Now we are having problems within our own university system. ASU is on strike, a warning strike, and now the government has been going back and forth saying there is no money to pay the lecturers, the striking lecturers. Now you have volume of students coming back into the country. What are we going to be dealing with here?
Well, I believe the government is just saying that on the top of their lips. In the first instance, it is because the opportunity for higher education has not availed itself. That's why those young people have migrated abroad, to go and study abroad. So, if the government, had done the right thing in the first instance, the quantum of students who are leaving wouldn't be leaving, and it is not only in Ukraine that will have that kind of number. In fact, those who are in Ukraine are just a minute fraction of the number of students who are Nigerians who are studying abroad. So I doubt if the government will be able to integrate them. It is not impossible if they want to do that.
So what will happen? That means our university system will be over bloated here.
It is not about being over bloated. In fact, the information available to me as an academic is that there are sufficient space for Nigerian students, especially in private universities in Nigeria. But parents could not afford it. That's the problem. Yes, in public universities, the facilities are not sufficient. They are overburdened and so on and so forth. And the government has said that they don't even have money to go and expand it and rejuvenate, facilities that have been, that have collapsed. Okay, so if the government are now to bring in more students into those facilities without the willingness to put in the resources that are required, I don't think that will work. But really, if the government want to integrate those that are coming from Ukraine into the Nigerian university system, I think it is possible, provided the government is willing to invest necessary resources. For example, there are private universities that are now doing medicine. I'm aware that many students, in Ukraine are into medicine and engineering. If they want to do that, they can put them even, in private universities, and pay the necessary fees as a responsible government, just to compensate those students so that they don't lose,
is that possible? They are giving them $100.
So that
at the
is
point
the
of entry. Do you think the government will be able to do that?
That is the issue. That is the issue. It is not impossible, but the government may not be willing to do that. When they are saying they don't even have enough money to pump into public universities, which are collapsing every day. So to now put probably 5,000 from Ukraine and integrate them, I don't know how easy that will be, because it points to the responsibility or otherwise of government and the love of citizens in them.
Would we say this is a national blow, or would we say this is a major shame for the country, for what we have seen so far, for Nigerians being exposed to this disaster? We've seen other nationals, and it's not as prominent as Nigerians. Even if you watch the international media, you realize that they report more of Nigerians being stranded in Ukraine. Would we say this is a national disgrace for us as a country?
Well, it's a national disgrace, but I doubt if our government still have any modicum of shame again. Because this is not what the war situation that has happened to Nigerians abroad. It's only that this is coming, at a time, and it's exposing the ineptitude of government, But it's something that we are familiar with, so it is not as if it's a strange thing. And for the international media that are focusing on it, it is because it is still it is still hot, as a news. That's why they are doing that. It is not that there are other countries that are, that don't care about their citizens like Nigeria, but the persistence of the same situation,
and the percentage of the figures are the same.
So I think that is what has attracted the international media in this situation. So, and I have not seen any change in government over time. It is still the same people. It's like the difference now is the party. Party A did it in the past, so Party B are doing it now. So they are all Nigerians. So until we change that attitude and that leadership, thing in our political class, I don't think any change could happen.
From this eye opener, what should the AU be looking at this moment? Because if you look at the African Union, it embodies the continent itself in terms of our development. Now we are being tagged third world country, and now you have the AU seat all the time, the ECOWAS too. Now, how can they help themselves as a continent to build up what appears to be a major problem? Now, if you see the number of African students in Ukraine, the numbers are very large compared to students going to Ghana or Togo or even South Africa, for instance. What can the African continent do to actually ensure that, some of its people do not leave, the Africans do not leave for another continent in order to seek basics like education? Why not have this kind of interaction within the African continent itself rather than another continent where they are being discriminated?
Well, I even have more confidence in in sub-regional organizations than even the AU. Because over time, especially in terms of managing conflict.
What are these regional organizations?
Like ECOWAS, like SADC, and those sub-regional groups, in East Africa, in Southern Africa, in Western Africa. I have more confidence in
Than
the ability
AU,
than
okay.
the AU, because AU had displayed a lot of irresponsibility over time, especially when it comes to managing crisis on the continent. Okay, so the right thing to do is to use the platform of the AU to talk sense, you know, among into our leaders, into our leadership, to leadership of every country in the AU, and then come up with a common stand about the plight of us of African citizens, you know, anywhere in the world, and then reasonably insist on certain standard of treatment. Okay, but in a situation where you are not even respected, and where you are not even seen to be proactive about the welfare of your citizens, it is very, very difficult to do that. That's why, you know, each country uses their diplomatic platform with others to negotiate the fate of their, of their citizens. It would have been stronger if, you know, an organization like AU, you know, is responsible and is able to rally everybody around, you know, to give one voice, a single voice to all of those things. But unfortunately, I don't see an AU in the present situation doing that, because to me, I think African Union is in a bad shape. So, but ECOWAS, yes, there are some hope there. SADC, you know, ECA and the rest of them, there are some hope, because they are much more coherent in terms of managing the affairs of the citizens of those member countries of the regional bodies. Okay, but ideally, and I will advise that the African countries strengthen the AU to be able to. I mean, for example, many conflicts where you would have expected the AU to come up and probably provide stabilization forces or peace intervention forces. They are not able to do it. The regional countries, regional bodies like ECOWAS, you know, for example, ECOMOG, have been able to do that. Okay, sometimes also with the support of the Security Council of the UN, United Nations Security Council, and other bodies of the United Nations. But for the AU, I think it's still an hopeless thing.
So what is the way out of all of this?
The way
Especially for the other batches now. This is just the first batch, and more are still stranded there. What should the government be looking at so that we do not have, because some of them are complaining of cold, starvation.
Yeah,
they don't have access to food.
Yeah, because the situation presently in Europe, especially around this time, is very dire and very, very critical. And I'm sure that some of them would have even dropped dead because of the hardship that, you know, they would have faced in that kind of a situation. But my advice is that the government should complete what they have started. They should, as much as possible, you know, try and bring back all Nigerians who are stranded in Ukraine and in the surrounding countries as much as possible. Before our president left for his own junketing, they said he approved $8.4 million. I doubt if this will be sufficient
to bring them back.
To bring them back and to take care of them adequately, you know, as our citizen deserves.
Possibly, maybe if he has released the presidential jets, that could have hastened it.
Well, maybe not presidential jets, but you know, there are still commercial airlines who can carry out those duties. But I mean, even currently, I think there are
and they have to pay for that.
Yeah, of course, the government have to pay. I think there are only 2 commercial airlines that have been contracted, and I think there should be more than 2. It doesn't make sense to be bringing them in batches. Why don't you do it once and for all? Appoint like maybe 5-6 airlines to go there and just airlift them and bring them back home. Okay, I think that makes more sense, because before you know it, some elements of corruption will now creep in, and then those airlines, the resources that ought to get into their hands will not. I mean, some guys might even begin to hijack.
Or would we say it's a documentation process, so that some African countries do not also come to Nigeria because they have also black skin?
No, it's not. I mean, it's really not about documentation. One would have expected that the embassy in Ukraine who should be able to have developed some mechanisms to have identified Nigerians anywhere who are stranded. What I know that this could also be, difficult for them because documentation is a problem, you know. But nevertheless, even if they are not African, I mean, if they are not Nigerians, if they are Congolese, if they are Ghanaians, let us bring them, back in the spirit of brotherhood, African brotherhood. That is what befits Nigeria, because Nigeria still claims to be the big brother on the continent. So let the governments be responsible and bring everybody back, from the danger that they are facing in Ukraine.
All right, on that note, we must say a big thank you to Dr. Shola Ishola, of course, in academia from the University of Ibadan, from the Department of Peace, Conflict and Strategy Studies in Ibadan. Thank you so much, sir, for being here this morning. And of course, we'll take this break. When we come back, we'll have